We're now being joined on the news at 10 by Mrs. Ayo Obe, who is a legal practitioner and a human rights activist, to look at the celebration of the first Democracy Day on June 12 and its implications for the country's democracy. A pleasure having you with us.
Hello.
It's a done deal. June 12th is now the country's Democracy Day. But beyond the celebrations today, what would you say is the greatest significance of the day?
Well, I think that for most people, the significance of the day was the way in which Nigerians came together and disregarded identity and decided to vote for a ticket which was a Muslim ticket. And if we compare ourselves to the way we are today, where everything has to be, if we first of all have to attach an identity label to things, it was an important, it was very important in that regard. But I think also that what happened after June 12th was also important, in the sense that, because you often hear young people saying, we need our Arab Spring, we needed our, our people on the streets and so on. And I think that one of the problems, and it's very good to see the commemoration of June 12th reminding people that actually in June or July 1993, Nigerians came out to demonstrate against the annulment of the June 12th election, and they were killed in their hundreds on the streets of Lagos. And despite that attack by the troops under the command of General Abacha, they still insisted on the actualization of June 12th. So I think that the significance of what happened in Nigeria on the day and after, the way that civil society led the struggle for democracy, is also an important part of the legacy of June 12th.
The president said a lot of things today in his speech, and there has been a barrage of reaction. So how would you assess that speech today?
How do I assess the
speech given by the president?
Speech?
Yes.
Yes, I think that there are certain aspects of it that are obviously a bit self-congratulatory. But I think that also some of them are important in terms of where we go from here. Because you often hear Nigerians talking about the dividends of democracy. And I think that one of the things that we don't necessarily grasp fully is that democracy is not an end in itself. It's the way by which you get the things that you want to call dividends. So it's not the dividend of democracy, but the dividend of the democratic choices that we as voters make about who is going to govern in our country. So for the president to make it a part of his commitment to the Nigerian people that he is going to tackle the issue of insecurity is an important factor. And however, speaking as somebody who turns out every Saturday in Lagos to campaign for the government to bring back our girls, I do remember that the president had promised to bring back the Chibok girls 4 years ago, and we still have 112 of them missing. But so when we vote for somebody and we say that this person has not fulfilled all their promises, have they fulfilled part of their promises? Or do we think that somebody else can fulfill those promises better? Those are the kind of choices that we have to make as Nigerians, and it's part of what we need to see in a democracy. These are not campaign pledges, however. They're undertakings that the president is giving to Nigerians on Democracy Day. And so I think there's a kind of disconnect, because the president needs to, I mean, when we are voting, the person who is asking for our votes needs to be very specific about what they are going to do. Now, I also think that the president's pledge to lift, I mean, in the context of that security, I think that the undertaking to combine with our neighboring countries is an important one. And because it's very clear that this is not a problem that is confined to Nigeria's borders. particularly when we consider the impact of climate change and what it's doing in our region. We can't solve these problems alone. However, we should not outsource the solution to these problems, because Nigeria is actually supposed to be the giant. If we are supposed to be the giant in Africa, definitely we have to be the giant in the West Africa. And I think that part of what's been missing in the region is a bit of Nigerian leadership on some of these issues. So I think that's an important thing. I think probably the one that I would last pick out is this issue about lifting 100 million Nigerians out of poverty in the next 10 years. Now, obviously, the president is not going to be there for the next 10 years. And he's had 4 years in which he has been working at the task of lifting Nigerians out of poverty by setting in motion the social investment policy program. And I think that the Nigerian Economic Summit Group has said that it's good insofar as it goes, but it doesn't go nearly far enough. So what we want to see is, how is the president going to upscale that? How is he going to bring the rest of the country, the state governments, on board, so that this goal of lifting Nigerians out of poverty is going to be met?
I'm sure they'll be looking at that in the coming days. Thank you so much, Mrs. Ayo Obey, for speaking with us on the News at 10.